You can say you want to change your life, make more money, and really crave it deep down, but you're still gonna self-sabotage. And that's not because you're weak, but because your brain is designed to protect your current life and the current identity that you hold. So in this video, I'm gonna break down the neuroscience behind identity shifting so that you can finally escape survival modes and start living the life you actually desire. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is that desire on its own is not enough, because your brain is constantly trying to protect what's already familiar to you. So you can desire deep down to completely change your life in 6 months from now, to scale your business, to get into better shape, but your brain will protect the current reality that you have. And that's normal, because our brains are designed to keep us safe, and that feeling of safety, that feeling of stability is much more important to our brain than growth. It's much more important than evolution. But that's the thing, if you actually want to change your life, that involves risk. And your mind absolutely hates that. So for example, if you're a content creator, if you have an online business and you're posting content, your brain is going to think that visibility equals threats. And therefore, that's the reason you procrastinate. You know deep down that you got to post content, but you delay everything and self-sabotage because, again, you're trying to be safe. So the first actionable thing that you can do right now to rewire your brain is to name your current identity loop in one line. So this can be something like, I am the person who does X whenever I try to do Y. And the more aware you are of these self-sabotage patterns, the faster you can break them. Because what you have to understand is that your identity defines your reality. You might look at outside factors and you might blame whatever's happening on the outside, but the real thing, the real issue is within. And the critical thing that you have to do here is stop using negative language. Because the more negative labels you put on yourself, like I'm inconsistent, I'm not good enough, I cannot change my life, I cannot scale my business, I cannot create content. The more you do that, the more you say that to yourself, the more your mind is actually going to believe that, and that will become your identity. So what you have to do is literally replace that language with more positive statements about yourself. Say something like, I am the person who's able to scale the business. I am the person who's able to change their life. I move fast. I move with intention. I move with purpose. Because a lot of people, what they do is they focus on habits. They focus on external factors. But again, your reality and the life that you have right now is defined by your self-image, is defined by your identity. And unless you go to the core and change that, nothing is going to change on the outside. I'm not going to sit here and tell you some tips and tricks to quickly change something that's surface level and not sustainable. This is a deep transformation that you got to go through to completely transform who you are. And look, for personal context, I struggled a lot with this in scaling my online business. Because earlier this year, I was obsessed with strategies. I was obsessed with outside things. And that became my life. It was completely chaotic. And I was only thinking negative thoughts. My patterns were really bad. And what do you know? That became my reality. And what I had to do, I had to take a step back and realize the environment is not the issue. The business is not the issue. The strategies are not the issue. But my identity and the language that I was using was the real problem. So for the first time in forever, I stopped operating from this hustle mode, from this I have to grind, I have to work 24/7. And I took a step back, I gave myself space, and I started implementing some small things like taking a walk, journaling, writing down some positive thoughts, keeping track of the things that I'm grateful for. And slowly, all of these different things rewired my mind. And now everything feels effortless, because that's the thing. So many people are obsessed with outside stuff, but we never stop to take a look within. And look, no matter where you are right now in your personal life, in your business, if you're running an online business and you're trying to scale, you cannot do that if internally you're a mess. And believe me, I had to learn this in the hardest possible way. I've seen that with my clients as well. Everybody is so obsessed with what's the funnel, what's the system, what's the best shortcut that I can take to make money online and all of these different things. But again, the internal stuff is what matters the most. And one amazing thing that you can do, and this is backed by neuroscience, is to implement micro glitches that literally force your identity to update. So let's take an example. Let's say you're running an online business and you have to create content, you have to be visible, but deep down you're scared of being seen. You're not aligned with the content that you're creating and you're constantly self-sabotaging and you're just afraid of posting. But let's take the new you, the new identity, the person that you're trying to become, the person that is making 200,000 per month, the person that is living in your dream place, that is driving your dream car. Think about the patterns and the things that that person, that identity is doing, and embody those things. So again, as an example, the next time you're trying to procrastinate, the next time you're trying to overly edit a reel instead of posting it or a video, don't do that. Do what that new you would do, and that will break the patterns that you have right now, and slowly this will force your brain to update. And the thing is, the more you implement these changes, the more you're gonna evolve. And at every step of the way, at every single next level, your nervous system will try to stop, because even positive change in your life, at first, it can feel unsafe. So what happens right before you start to make more money is that your nervous system is gonna keep you trapped there, and it's just literally gonna freeze you, and it can all come crashing down. And again, I'm speaking from personal experience here. So this happened to me a couple of months ago. I went through a severe breakdown because my life was changing in real time and it was super fast. And my nervous system literally was screaming at me like, stop, we have to stop this. And that's why I literally went into a burnout. And again, no outside strategy would have fixed that, not even money, because it was an internal thing. So what you have to understand is that right now, if you've been feeling stuck for months, if you don't actually know what's the reason I'm not able to transform my life, what's the reason I cannot make more money, what's the reason I cannot improve my relationships, it's probably your nervous system trying to tell you that this feels unsafe. And this creates this weird pattern and cycle of self-sabotage and just literally this fight or flight modes that you're constantly in. And this is the reason why you're in constant survival mode, because you do not feel safe internally. But again, giving yourself space will regulate your nervous system. And the reason why I'm stressing this out so much is that I see so many creators, so many business owners, entrepreneurs just obsess and literally destroy themselves by first of all, comparing themselves to others, by trying to chase external strategies, but deep down their nervous system is just a complete mess. It's a complete chaos, and therefore everything feels so heavy. And that's probably happening to you right now. You're trying to scale your business, it feels heavy. You're trying to speak to new clients, you're trying to make new connections, and it seems so hard to make some progress. And one practical thing that you can do if you feel the stress, if you feel the anxiety, if you constantly self-sabotage, is deep breathing and meditation. So this is what I'm doing right now. When I wake up in the morning, the very first thing that I do is I journal and I do deep breathing. So this helps me not only be aware, but also calm down and just relax my nervous system. And what this also does, it allows me to be present. Because this is the biggest thing, you cannot improve your life because you're in this constant modes of urgency and self-imposed stress. You're constantly scared that you're not gonna make enough money to pay the bills. You're constantly scared that you're not gonna be able to get the opportunities that you desire. And you're not present, because when you're present, when you're still, when you're grateful, that's when you operate from a creative state rather than a reactive state. And if you wanna actually change your life, you have to be in an intentional, creative state to be able to do that. And the next step now is being aware of the reticular activating system. So think of your brain like the Instagram feeds. It cannot possibly show you everything, right? So it's trying to show you what it thinks that you care about, what it thinks that you're obsessed with. So the more in your mind, the more you think negative thoughts, the more you're actively scared about something, the more you're repeating something over and over to yourself, like, oh, I do not have enough money, I never get clients, I never get opportunities, the more you're gonna actually see those things happening in your current life. And this is how it works. Whatever you're focused on will be magnified. Whatever you're obsessed with, that's gonna be your reality. All you have to do is literally shift your attention from the negative feelings, the negative things that you perceive as being a lack, to the positive things. And the thing with this, because I always love this word, is you have to be intentional and you have to be specific with the signals that you want your brain to highlight. Be super specific, like today, one person is gonna ask me about my offer. Today, I'm going to get a client. Today, I'm going to do this. So be super specific and also track every single time that that thing you said happens, because I guarantee you it will, and that will reinforce the belief that what you hold in your mind will actually become true. And look, ultimately, if you want to finally change your life, change your current reality, you need to be able to let go of the old self. You need to be able to let go literally of all of the programming so far, every negative pattern, every fear, every worry, every limiting belief, every idea that you cannot do whatever you want to do. And you have to be able to let all of that go and transition into the new version of you that is able to do the things that you want to do to achieve your goals. And letting go can feel super scary. And that's why a lot of people will never grow. That's why a lot of people are staying stuck, because they are so attached to their current identity, to the things, to the worries, to the fears, to the old patterns, because that's all they've ever known. So even, for example, literally $1 million would knock on your door right now. If you're too attached to that feeling of, I don't have enough money, you're gonna reject, like your mind will reject that $1 million. That's how life works, right? So if you're afraid of evolving, if you're staying in that fear will keep you stuck forever. So what you gotta do is be able to make that sacrifice, be able to let that old you go. Stop feeding the current life if you actually wanna change it. Stop feeding the reality that is not serving you anymore, and start feeding and start serving that new identity of you that will get you there. Because this is the key. There's no strategy, there's no secret AI app that you can build, there's no best business model, there's no shortcut. The real shortcut is you shifting your self-image, becoming aligned with the things, with the business that you're trying to build, and slowly changing your patterns, giving yourself the space, being grateful for what you already have, being present. And again, I promise you, whatever you have in your minds, that will be projected in your day-to-day life. And I want to end by saying this: you do not change your life by working 18 hours a day without being aligned, without having the right emotional state and the right inner state. So think about it like that. You do not have to hustle. You do not have to grind. Stop thinking like that, like I have to hustle. Like all of my life, that's what I thought about. But it wasn't until I made this internal shift that literally everything started to make sense. The business started to make sense. The content started to make sense. And now I'm aligned with what I'm doing. And you're gonna be as well after implementing these things in this video. So if it was helpful and valuable to you, make sure you subscribe, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.